This is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. And it seems like we've got some good news to share with white Americans, the ones who keep telling black people, go back to Africa, go back to Africa. Well, it seems like a lot of black Americans are going back to Africa and loving it. I was asked to do a video about the goings-on in the Gambia where women are coming up dead, murdered or poisoned, but still dead. And in the process of doing that, I have come across some other kinds of videos about Africa, including black Americans who have repatriated to Africa, who are putting out videos about what you have to do to be safe in Africa. And I think it's very good information, and anybody who is thinking about relocating to Africa needs to watch some of those videos. But there are black Americans who are in Africa thriving, enjoying it, and have no intention of coming back to the United States. So that's good news for people who keep telling you every time something comes up, you go back to Africa, go back to Africa. Well, the good news is at least black Americans can go back to Africa. You can't go back anywhere. The Europeans don't even want them to come over there for a visit. They said they're ugly Americans, don't have any manners. So the good news for black Americans is that we can go back to Africa if we want to, any black African country. The door seems to be open. I got this article from the New York Times, and it says Blaxit, and Blaxit is black Americans exiting the United States. Tired of racism, black Americans try life in Africa. So yes, a lot of black Americans are tired of racism, tired of the nonsense, and just need a new start. Some black people really just want their children to be in an environment where people are not placing low expectations on them. My niece was in the 9th grade when Donald Trump was elected president. She came home from school one day and said, "Grandma, are we going back to Africa?" Some white child had told her at school that they were going to make us go back to Africa. And my sister said, well, I hadn't planned on it. So Trump was elected in 2016, and then in 2019, Ghana had the year of return. And since then, black Americans have been packing up and heading towards Africa. I never thought I would live to see the day, but they're doing it, and a lot of them are not regretting it at all. Some are coming back and regrouping so they can go back. So if you really want to get away from the racism and just the plain idiocy of some of these people, it may not be a bad option. Jessica Washington lives in a 6-bedroom house on a hill with avocado trees and a spectacular view not far from the rabbit farm she runs. For less than $50,000, Shoshana Kira Zaraba and her husband built a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house on family farmland with goats, turkeys, and about 1,000 chickens. Mark and Marlene Bradley now call themselves Islanders and the owners of 3 homes cooled by ocean breezes. All of them are black Americans who found new homes in Africa. They are enjoying the substantially lower cost of living and, more important, they say the absence of racism and discrimination they experienced in the United States, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the racial reckoning in the wake of the murder of George Floyd led some black Americans to seek a different way of life abroad. It's a movement that some are calling Blaxit. Those moving to Africa are also looking for an ancestral connection. Their migration is less about money and more about acceptance, a path that many intellectuals and artists have taken before. Today, a new life in Africa is open to people of varied professions who can work remotely. Immigration has been fueled by vocal proponents on social media and by government programs like Sierra Leone's Path to Citizenship and Ghana's Beyond the Return campaign. According to the Diaspora Affairs Office of Ghana, at least 1,500 African Americans moved to the country between 2019 and 2023, despite the potential concerns for newcomers, including a wave of extreme anti-LGBTQ policies across the continent. Black Americans are still making the trip. Kurya Zaraba says in Uganda, she no longer faces 1,000 cuts of racism. For years, she made accommodations big and small to try to control other people's perceptions, smiling to appear non-threatening, buying nicer clothes to avoid being mistaken for a domestic worker, and straightening her hair to be seen as more professional. She knew she had been acquiescing, but she said, I didn't know the extent until I didn't have to do it anymore. She also went from a one-bedroom apartment in the States to a 2-acre family compound in Uganda. Her home is a stone's throw from the homes of her parents-in-law and her sister-in-law and the large chicken coop where she raises chickens. Her in-laws helped her husband build their house. It's just so nice having all of this additional family support, she said. Africa isn't a refuge for all, though. Anti-LGBTQ sentiments is sweeping across the continent. In Uganda, the Anti-Homosexuality Act, enacted last year, punishes LGBTQ activity and behavior with imprisonment and, in some cases, death. Similar bills have been introduced in other African countries such as Ghana and Kenya. Jessica Washington is still in awe of her life in Rwanda. She works as an online teacher with students in South Carolina and has an agricultural visa that allows her to run a rabbit farm near her home outside Kigali. She shares her 6-bedroom house with her 76-year-old mother. I just never thought that a single woman with a teaching salary would be able to live in a space like this, she said. Her home on 1 acre with avocado trees cost $500 a month and required an initial 6-month payment. Stipulations for upfront rental payments of several months, a year, or even longer are common. The move has given Washington more room physically and emotionally. One of the things I wanted to get away from for just a little while was being a black woman, she said. The expectation that she be strong, because in America, black women are supposed to be strong, exhausted her. I just wanted a space to be me. While in the United States, $500 rent may seem cheap, in Rwanda it is a significant amount. In some cases, the large wealth gap between American immigrants and most Africans leads to friction, but in other cases, locals embrace the infusion of cash. Many governments court the diaspora for this exact purpose. Justin Nagaga, 39, the founder of Impact Route, a company in Kigali that offers relocation services, said there is little tension between expatriates like Washington and locals. Unlike Portugal and Ghana, where an influx of foreigners drove up cost, Rwanda does not have enough newcomers to produce such a negative economic impact, Nagaga said. So there are black Americans who are moving to all parts of Africa, west, east, and south, and they're having a good experience. But there are also those that are not having such a great experience, And one therapist said, if you're fed up and tired of racism in the United States, you might want to try therapy before you move to Africa. And everybody suggests that you visit there first before trying to make a permanent move to a place that you really don't know anything about. But for some, this seems to be a solution, and moving back to Africa or moving to Africa seems to be a solution to whatever ails them. All I would say is be very careful and pay attention to what the people say who are already over there or have been over there. There comes a time when too many Black Americans get there with money, then the locals become envious and angry, because I've heard them talking about that the Americans are flashing money and they're rich, and they may not be rich, but they may have more money than the locals. But there can arise envy in the locals, and there's more of them than there are of you. I still say just be very, very careful when you're going into a new environment like that. Even though they're Black, you still don't know them well enough to think you can trust all of them. That's all I gotta say. But anyway, I thought the article was very interesting, and you let me know what you think about it. Thank you for listening. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.